So speaking of dropping weight, sometimes people want to do it intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, but there comes a time where fighters in Thailand, they have to cut weight, right? And we've seen in the past where unfortunately, uh, bad things can happen. If you look at what happened with Jordan Coe a couple years ago, he was out running, trying to drop a lot of weight. He was by himself, and he might have suffered from heat stroke or something like that. But how can fighters prevent things like this from happening? When they're here in Thailand and they got to cut weight, how can they do it in a healthy way? That's not going to lead to some unfortunate event.
Yeah, so I think weight cutting is the area of nutrition in Thailand that really needs the most focus for improvement, and really sort of urgently as well, like you mentioned with Jordan Coe, and also Dan McGowan just wrote a really good article on one of his tough weight cuts. I think he had to get down to 53 kilos or something for one of his fights in Thailand, and just he detailed the whole experience, how awful it was. And I think that hits home the point of how much of a way there is to go. So what you'll often see is the stereotypical Thai weight cut regime will be lots of running in sweatsuits, and that will probably start early in the week of the fight. They'll be running and sweating and perceiving that weight loss that's just sweat to be more like body fat loss, which it isn't. So as soon as they drink back the water, they're just putting back in what they've all sweated out. And so what they're essentially doing there is they're relying on dehydration as the sort of first go-to method. And obviously it's pretty obvious that dehydration can have some really significant health consequences. So dehydration would be one of almost the last methods I would go just to get the final couple of pounds off, rather than Thai style. It tends to be the first thing. It's like, right, you've got to lose weight for a fight, get running in the sweatsuit. And so there's other methods that I would recommend that can, help shift a bit of the weight before you have to go to the dehydration. So like I mentioned, in Thailand, that's like the first thing, but whereas for me, it would be almost a last resort. So things you can do would be like water loading, and that essentially involves drinking a load of water for maybe 4 days or so, and then cutting that water off. So you just have a small amount the day before your weigh-in. And what that does is when you're drinking loads, your body gets used to basically peeing a lot. And the theory is that it takes a little while for your body to catch up once you cut that water off. So you stop drinking water, but you continue peeing, and you end up sort of net weighing less. And that could do, some people that can do a few kilos just through doing that without having to run in sweatsuit or sit in a sauna. And then most importantly, you've got the low fiber diet. So this is something that all around the world, but definitely in Thailand, is underutilized. And basically you can lose between sort of half a kilo and a kilo, depending on your body size, how much veg you normally eat. And that basically just involves doing sort of 2 days before the fight, 2 to 3 days, just cutting out fiber. So that would be, you wouldn't have any whole grain carbs, you wouldn't have any fruits or vegetables really. And actually just doing that for 2 days isn't going to have any health consequences. Normally, obviously, fiber is an important part of the diet, but if you just cut it out for 2 days, what it does is basically you have like gut residues, like undigested matter in your gut, and that allows you to get rid of that. And so, yeah, like I said, that can be sort of half a kilo to a kilo for some people. And, if you've ever cut weight and you're a fighter, having even just half a kilo less to cut through the sweatsuit, that is like a godsend. And by doing that, you can, lose a couple of kilos before you've even put the sweatsuit on. And so those would be the sort of first methods I'd go to. And then maybe if you've still got another little bit to go after that, then you can run in the sweatsuit. And the other thing as well is that, like I said, they'll start doing those sweatsuit runs early in the week. And so they'll basically be dehydrated for like a whole week, which is absolutely awful for you. And unfortunately, it's those cases where people have had really serious health consequences, or even, like you said, death. And so dehydration, you want to be dehydrated for a small amount of time as possible. So if you're using those methods throughout the week, so with the water loading and the low fiber, maybe reducing carbs a little bit, but you don't want to cut them out completely. especially in Thailand where they do the same day weigh-in and fight. If you cut out carbs that fight week, you're not going to have enough time to replenish them. But then if you've already lost a few percentage of your weight, lost a few kilos doing those methods, then perhaps the night before the fight and the sort of the morning of the weigh-in, that's when you can lose the last little bit. But you definitely don't want to be dehydrated for more than 24 hours before the weigh-in. And that's why I'll see common fighters will start running in the sweatsuits on the Monday, and they'll just basically constantly be dehydrated throughout the week, which will take such a huge toll on your body.
What do you think about this? This was what somebody told me they once used to do here in Thailand. They would actually drink hot tea during the weight cut for that final week before their fight. They would drink hot tea because, according to this person, they said that it would hydrate them, but also they would sweat at the same time because, you know, of the hot tea and the hot weather in Thailand. Is that doing anything at all, or is it more just kind of psychological?
Yeah, there's a potential mechanism by that could work, and if that is that they are drinking hot tea instead of water that they would already be drinking, then yeah, if you're just having a small amount of hot tea, and obviously you're in Thailand, so it's hot, and you start sweating because of that, the net sort of water gain on that will be less than if you're just drinking cold water. So yeah, potentially.
Potentially. All right.